She is more righteous than I. He wore cursing as his garment. It entered into his body like water, into his bones like oil. Thus writes the psalmist, and in many ways, this could describe my father. He was adept at cursing people, me included. By this, I don't mean that he used foul language, which he did. He was quite proficient at swearing. But the real damage he inflicted was at a deeper level. It mattered little what he called me, stupid, Uncle Dummy, whatever. The significance lay not in the particular name, but in the belittling nature of his remarks. Whether he intended it or not, the cumulative effect of these words repeated frequently over many years led me to question my competence, my significance. I came to possess a very negative self-image, and I had a deep sense of shame because of the power of those words. I tried to counteract what my father said. I reasoned he was just trying to be funny. They are only words, and we know sticks and stones can break your bones, but names will never hurt you. But I've come to realize that platitude, which we teach so flippantly to children, is terribly misguided. Broken bones will eventually heal, but the lacerations left by the cutting words often remain with us a lifetime. Abraham Joshua Heschel writes, speech has the power, and few men realize words do not fade. What starts out as sounds ends in deeds. The author of Proverbs affirms this and says, the words of a reckless pierce like swords. Proverbs 12. These are critical truths we need to relearn. And our society is filled with reckless, piercing words. We've made a fine art of using our words to hurt, to harm, and to shame people. Social media is a hornet's nest filled with people using words to harm. People seeking to cancel others, to dox others, people they don't like, publicly shaming with deep fake videos, and I could go on. We live, in many ways, in a sick society bent on shaming anyone who we don't agree with. It is in this context that the story of Tamar and Judah can speak to us. It seems to be filled with all the things that I would suggest is wrong with our current society. People in this story are morally compromised. Yet I would suggest that there is an element of biblical wisdom evident in the strange, sordid, ethically questionable account of Tamar and Judah, which we need to recapture. We need to find this. But we do need some help sorting through the difficult and socially distant passage. We need to recognize some of what is going on in order to look deeper and see a profound truth underlying this troubling story. This is where Rabbi Jonathan Sacks has come into and been very profound for me in many different things as I've been sharing through this series, but this one particularly. He revealed to me a profound truth in Tamar's actions, which helps this ancient story speak to our modern society. But it begins, if we go to the account, it begins simple enough. The whole drama begins with a marriage. The fourth son of Jacob, Judah, the forefather of one of the 12 tribes of Israel, acquires a wife for his eldest son, Her name is Tamar. The story is tame enough at the beginning, but things quickly deteriorate. Is described as a wicked man in God's sight. We're not told what he did, but we do know that he died, leaving Tamar a widow and childless. This left without a child to carry out his name, and Tamar didn't have anyone to protect and provide for her. But there was a cultural custom in those days designed to protect against such circumstances. The next oldest living relative is expected to produce a child who will carry on the dead man's name. The duty then falls to Er's brother, Onan. But Onan, too, has his issues. He has a questionable character. He is intimate with Tamar, but acts in a way to try to prevent it leading to a pregnancy. He does this to prevent himself from producing an offspring for his brother. God is offended by this behavior, and Onan dies. Judah's two oldest sons are certainly lacking in character. They've done evil and they've been judged. But Judah doesn't rank up there high either in the quality of character. Remember, we just saw in chapter 37 where Judah conspired with his brothers to waylay, to jump Joseph, their younger brother. First of all, threatened to kill him and then sold him into slavery. And now we see his character flaw exposed. If you listen to Genesis 38 again, give me just a second to pull it up here. Verse 11. He says to Tamar, "Live as a widow in your father's household until my son Shelah grows up." But he thought he may die too, just like his brothers. So while he tells her to go and live like a widow, he has no intention to let his younger son raise up a name or raise up a son for and for her to be her protection. He fears that this son in some way has sinned too and will die. And that would leave him without an heir to carry on his name. So he deceives her. We might conclude that he assumes that she is the cause of these deaths. Thus, abandoning Tamar is a cruel act on his part. Let me explain why. So let me say that again. Judah assumes Tamar is the cause of his son's death, not their wickedness. So if Shelah comes, he's going to die too. He doesn't want to lose his heir. So he lies to Tamar and leaves her abandoned. And what is that situation that she's abandoned in? In the Old Testament, there are repeated calls in Scripture to care for the widows, the orphans, and the foreigners. The reason they do this is that these three people are outside the typical protections of what is called the household, where unlike a government or unlike in a nation, in Judah's time, people were protected by a household ruled by the oldest male parent. And in that situation, the sons were taken care of, their wives were taken care of, but the daughter-in-law didn't fit. She didn't have the protection. She had to go back almost shamed to her father's house and wait until Judah decided, because she was still bound to She couldn't go find protection or find another husband and have a wife. All she can do is wait for that youngest brother to be given to her. She has no standing in society at this time. She doesn't have the husband or the child to protect her. She is essentially abandoned, and her father-in-law does not even tell her the truth. She is left hanging. She is powerless and trapped. She's trapped in the moral failure of Onan, and Judah. So what's the solution to this untenable position, this unescapable position? She develops a radical plan. Certainly, it's a plan that has some really questionable moral decisions. But for her, it's the only viable option. She dresses as a prostitute, waits for Judah to come along. She entices him, and they go along with her. And he goes along with her. They're intimate. The pledge of payment is made. He offers her staff and seal, an identifying mark. This will be important in the future. She comes pregnant. Judah finds out, and has been the case for 4,000 years, the woman is held to a different standard than the man. Hypocritically, Judah demands that she be brought out and burned to death. She should be publicly shamed and executed. What injustice! What morally disgusting behavior. He engaged in the same behavior, but he wants her dead. But again, have we not seen that double standard for thousands of years? So let's get on to the point. We have to ask Is there anything redeemable in this account? Is there any lesson about grace and mercy that we can pull from this morally compromised group of people? Up to this point, I would suggest not. But here's where the story takes a strange twist. When they come to Tamar to get her, or come to get her to punish her, she sends out these tokens, the seal, the rod, or the seal and the staff. She has them shown to Judah. But she doesn't tell anyone else to whom they belong. The only person that's going to know to whom they belong is Judah. So in a covert way, she lets Judah know that he is the father of the child. This leads him to make the appropriate assessment that she is more righteous than he. Obviously, it doesn't mean that she did everything right, but he was willing to publicly shame her. And she's not willing to do that to him. In his book, Rabbi Sachs says, with great ingenuity and boldness, Tamar has broken through the bind in which Judah has placed her. She has fulfilled her duty to the dead, but no less significantly, she spared Judah shame. By sending him a coded message, the pledge, she's ensured that he will know that he himself is the father of the child, but no one else will know. Trapped in this impossible situation because of the deceitfulness of Judah and his sons' sinfulness, she found a way out of her bind without needing to shame anyone else. Here is the message of grace then and now. How easy it would have been. You're going to kill me. I'm going to throw you out under the bus. But this is an essential message for society that seems bent on number one thing to do is shame others. We seem to have this obligation to engage in call-outs and to dox people and to cancel people. We send offensive memes and we do all these other things. We are ever ready to engage in speech that is death-producing, to speak those words into the lives of others. Tamar sets an example that the Jewish rabbis, commentators have used as an example for centuries. Here's the advice that they give. It is better that a person throw himself into a fiery furnace rather than to shame his neighbor in public. What would that wisdom do today in our society? And again, it's not just the Jewish rabbis. Listen to the wisdom of Solomon found in the Proverbs. The words of the reckless pierce like swords, but the tongue of the wise bring healing. The tongue of the wise adorns knowledge, but the mouth of fool gushes with folly. The wicked person listens to deceitful lips. A liar pays attention to a destructive tongue. The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. The power of the tongue. And James talked about this. We put bits into the mouths of horses. We do those kinds of things. A rudder guides us. But the tongue is a fire, a world of evil among the parts of the body. And listen to what he says. With the tongue we praise our Lord and Father, and we curse human beings who've been made in God's likeness. Out of the same mouth come praise and cursing. My brothers and sisters, this should not be. Do we weigh carefully the words that we use? We need to take seriously the power of the tongue. We need to not shame others. Like Tamar, if we've been offended, our challenges ought to be done privately, so as not to cause shame and perpetuate the problem. Let us control our tongues. Let us use our words carefully, with the purpose of healing and helping, not hurting and degrading. My experience with my father testifies it's important to remember the power of words we speak. As James said already, it's a restless evil, that tongue. It has the power of life and death. And I want us to focus on our responsibility.